In 2008, the town of Farmville signed an intergovernmental service agreement known as an IGSA with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement amidst protests. This resulted in the opening of what is now known as the Mid-Atlantic's hub for ICE detention.
When I first learned about Farmville, it sort of seemed obvious to me why people should be pissed off about it. It's a jail for people who should have the right to move wherever they desire.
Luis Oyola was only 17 when ICA Farmville opened. Today, he's the director of organizing at Legal Aid Justice Center in Charlottesville, where he is working to see the detention center close.
I think the best future for them is to close down and for the federal government to put money towards community programs that actually help people through their immigration cases.
IGSAs allow the federal government to pay localities a per diem rate for holding immigrants in detention. These localities can then contract detention services to a private company. That's the case of ICA Farmville. The facility is owned and operated by for-profit provider Immigration Centers of America. According to ICE, as of March 1st, there were 11 people detained at ICA Farmville. The center's capacity is 732. Documents obtained by the National Immigrant Justice Center show, on average, Farmville bills ICE over $2 million a month. After paying its private contractor to run the facility, the town pockets its percentage. In 2021, that was $200,000, according to their budget. Farmville has come to rely on that income to help pay for essential town services.
They're treated like any other business, right? They pay their way. And so that money then gets poured into the core services that we give to our town residents.
Farmville Mayor Brian Vincent was elected in 2022. He says while campaigning for mayor, not one of his constituents brought up concerns regarding the town's agreement with ICE and ICA.
As of this time frame, there has not been an appetite or a movement to separate from that agreement. But there's always that chance that happens. But the other side of that is this is rural Virginia, and that facility supplies federal wage jobs in a locality that needs jobs.
In 2018, this man, who we are calling Jose to protect his identity, was picked up by ICE and taken to ICA Farmville after serving a sentence for a misdemeanor traffic violation.
Fue por una violación de tránsito. No sé, lo primero que me exigieron al momento de llegar a una detención de condado fue la documentación. Al no tener documentación legal, me pusieron el detainer migratorio.
People who are immigrants, when they are convicted, they serve their sentences, and then ICE is able to get them and put them in a detention center. So to people who say it's necessary, why is it necessary to people who just so happen to not be citizens, but not necessary for people who just so happen to be citizens? It's an arbitrary double standard.
Jose says his time at ICA Farmville caused him so much stress and trauma, there were times he wished to be deported, although he had fled El Salvador because of threats to his safety.
Yo pensaba eso, no, yo mejor a mí que me deporten. No puedo seguir viviendo esto, me voy a enfermar. Y yo no entiendo cómo hay gente, increíblemente han pasado un año, y por qué nunca les llegan los citatorios o les van moviendo las cortes. Es increíble que personas estando ahí adentro les estén moviendo la corte en vez de aligerar el proceso.
In the United States, immigration detention is civil detention and is not intended to be punishment for criminal convictions. Yet, the people detained are in facilities that mirror the country's criminal incarceration system.
The Immigrant Naturalization Act empowers the federal government to determine that someone in immigration proceedings, either awaiting for their court case to be heard, or they've lost their case and they are awaiting deportation, that they can be held in detention.
ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Field Office Director Russell Hott says, generally speaking, the purpose of detention is to facilitate repatriation and/or removal proceedings.
I think often, right, especially when we started to see some of the Abolish ICE movement, there was definitely a lot of misgivings on the agency's focus overall. Ultimately, we continue to prioritize our efforts on those individuals that pose the greatest threat to undermine the immigration laws of the U.S.
But traffic violations like Jose's can often trigger the possibility of deportation and result in what justice advocates call the traffic stop to deportation pipeline.
Here within the Commonwealth, we have a program we refer to as the Criminal Apprehension Program, and its focus is based on individuals who have already been arrested for other state and local charges, right? We'll interview those individuals, determine whether or not they are subject to removability.
Hott says 2 detention centers in Virginia are a requisite to the level of activity they are seeing overall. Caroline Detention Facility used to be a jail located in Bowling Green, Caroline County, and ICE entered into that 5-year agreement in 2018. As detailed in the county's detention fund, they are reimbursed $7 per detainee at a minimum rate of 224 people per day per month. That's more than $500,000 a year going into the county's budget. Opponents of the Caroline Detention Facility have leveled charges of detainee abuse. In 2021, immigrant advocate groups filed a civil rights complaint with the Department of Homeland Security on behalf of people detained at Caroline Detention, outlining medical neglect, solitary confinement, and COVID-19 negligence. The Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties within the Department of Homeland Security acknowledged the complaints and allegations made against the facility. At last report, they intended to investigate.
The federal government, at the end of the day, determines immigration law. But as Virginians, we can decide that we don't want to be part of the detention arm of that anymore and say, the federal government cannot host detention centers in Virginia anymore or hold contracts with local jails for holding immigrants.
Jose fought deportation for 5 years and has finally been granted asylum. However, he says that because of the 2 months he spent in ICE detention, worried he might never see his wife and children again, he is being treated for post-traumatic stress disorder.
Thank you for watching. Continue to follow Virginia news and stories by subscribing to our VPM YouTube channel.